I'm glad to be back at Dream Stories.
No pun intended.
Oh, that's true. No pun intended. Hey, it really wasn't intended. It's good. No, I mean, for folks who don't know, I broke my back, 3 weeks ago? So we've been off about 2 weeks, I guess.
Halloween.
I did. It was the 31st of October. It sure was. Broke my back and had surgery on the 8th of November.
Yeah.
Amazing recovery from surgery.
Good. You really did well.
Yeah. I mean, had like excruciating pain the first week, and then 8 days after breaking it, had surgery, and pretty much, I mean, like you were helping me into the hospital to the outpatient area, barely walking, and pretty much just walked out to the car on the far side of the parking lot after recovery. That's pretty cool.
It was really good.
Granted, the incision pain and the muscular pain, the ligaments that were pulled and torn, I was on enough medication when I came out of the hospital that those weren't bothering me. The next few days were a little more
the
challenging.
First day you're like, woohoo, look at me.
Let's go.
And I was like, you better sit down.
Well,
you better sit down.
I don't normally take pain medication, so I didn't know that's what it was. I just thought I felt better.
And you did for that moment.
Feel better, that's right. And I'm still struggling a little bit. Like, I mean, sitting here to film, I can feel the muscles in my back, kind of being a little tight and stuff. Yeah. But compared to where I was, oh my goodness.
You were afraid to move too. I think when someone tells you you've broken a bone in your back, you have these thoughts.
I was terrified.
Well, you hear of people saying your back is not stable. It could collapse right there. So you had these fears, and I mean, granted, they were legitimate fears. I probably would have had the same.
And even though the doctor was telling me your back's stable and it's not anything you need to worry about, I still stressed out.
One doctor told you it was stable and fine. The other doctor said, "Well, you really need surgery." That was the ER doctor going to see an orthopedic surgeon, and so we were. You had another orthopedic surgeon friend who recommended the surgeon you got, and thankful for him. He was like, they're probably going to tell you you're going to be okay. And then even he was surprised. They said, no, the place it was broken, it was best for them to jack your back up.
And that's right. And I remember. So just so everybody knows, they did 4 incisions, 2 for each vertebrae, and they open it up and put like a little tube in and then drill a hole into your vertebrae. And they did a stent, like a balloon thing on one of them, and pushed it back up into place and then filled it with basically concrete, glue, cement, whatever. But the other one, they were telling us they're telling us there's 2 options. One's a balloon, one's a jack, like a little car jack. They spin the wheel and it jacks everything back up into place. And I told you beforehand, is it wrong to kind of hope they
jack you up?
They put the jack in so I could tell everybody the rest of my life I really am jacked up. So, and they did. They ended up having to put the jack in.
Well, I mean, they tried to do the balloon on that one.
They did. It just wouldn't lift it.
It would not lift your vertebrae up, and it exerts, they said, like 300 pounds of pressure, but you needed something that exerted much more.
Yeah, a lot more. So
and they said it worked.
And they just encased that jack in concrete too. And literally all the broken bone pain was gone within 20 minutes after surgery. Pretty amazing. I told you, and I'll tell everybody who's watching, I'm a big believer that God heals miraculously and supernaturally. And I'm a big believer that he gives wisdom to the medical community for them to do what they do. There's no way they could do that surgery without God having given them the insight and the wisdom. And shout out to Dr. John Crompton in West Virginia, who was a former church member and got me pointed in the right direction for surgery, and to Dr. Tim Bassett in Tuscaloosa, who took care of me and got me back up and moving and able to do podcasts again.
Yeah, we're thankful.
It's good.
Thankful. What are we going to talk about?
Well, we need to talk about dreams some more. So
we're thankful you're okay. Thank you for your prayers.
I figured people kind of wanted an update what happened.
Thank you for your prayers, and a lot of people brought us meals and took care of us. It's been very nice.
Yeah, it's been really, really nice. Yeah. Really, really good.
Our church family did that for us, and we appreciate it.
Yep. Really awesome. So, well, you had a dream recently that was kind of unique and weird. We've talked several times about, your dreams are always strange, but But we've talked several times about when deceased people show up in dreams.
Yeah.
And the different things it can mean. But this one, I thought probably would be a fun topic because I think some people listen to the podcast and think that we always know what a dream means and we always respond perfectly to a dream and that we always do. And this was dreams that had some confirmation they were important.
Yeah.
But we still really don't know what to do with it. And I think it's good for people to know that. So.
I mean, we're just going to cover this anyway because who knows where it will go because I don't always share everything, and I may not share everything about this particular dream, like who the people were, their names, or anything like that. Because, what was in the dream was something that I probably needed to act on or help with in some way, whatever. But anyway, I had a dream about, I guess I should say, sometimes we don't know how to respond to dreams, you know? We have them and we go, okay, is that about me? Is that about someone else or whatever? But anyway, I had this dream about a friend who had passed away. It's been over... it's been some time, good bit of time.
Right. About
2019 maybe or something like that, 2020.
2020, a little over 2 years or right at 2 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, we knew the person.
Right at 18 months, I guess.
We knew the person well. And
when I was pastoring, they were part of our congregation.
Yes.
Good friends.
Yes. But anyway, I had a dream, and the dream had a dilemma in it. I mean, there's no need for me to go into great detail about what the dilemma was. But he was looking for something that was very important. And, and then in the dream, he kind of fussed at me a little bit and said I had done something with it, and I was like, no, I didn't do anything with it. And then later in the dream I had a solution for him and said, this is where you might find what you're looking for. And then when I woke up from the dream, I remember being puzzled, and I came to you, I was like, why would I dream about this? Because, it's something that really nothing can be done about. They're already passed or whatever.
Yeah, there was clearly no way to take that dream more like a vision, more literal of you needed to go do something or help this individual find something. You really could, because it was impossible. It's a person who's already passed away.
Well, the unique thing is their spouse had recently passed away,
like
too.
Within a few weeks.
Right, and they showed up in the dream as well. Mm-hmm. But they didn't really say much, they were there. So I was like, well, what do I do with this, And I asked you, I was like, should I, do something with this? And you were like, well, I don't know. Well, 3 days later, I'm in a store and I get I think my phone buzzed or it kind of rang. And it said, and it had the person's name who had more recently, their spouse had passed away. And it said, so-and-so is trying to reach you.
The person who just recently passed away was trying to reach you.
Yeah. Now, this is 3 days after
the dream.
So, I mean, I have not done anything with it yet because then you fell. I mean, all that had kind of happened. Right. So I'm going to reach out to someone I know and just ask them some questions about it. Yeah. But it was just so strange. And, it's like sometimes when you're looking at a dream, we talk about intrinsic dreams and extrinsic dreams, intrinsic being more about ourselves, right? Extrinsic being things that are outside of us. Well, I wasn't really doing anything in the dream, but then I felt like it was confirmation getting the phone call and, or the message or messenger. It says so-and-so's trying to reach you by phone or something like that. Or can I call you? I don't remember what it said. I went back and looked for it. It's not there. But when I showed it to my son, he was like, oh, Mom. Because I said, well, you think that's weird? Let me tell you the dream I had. And I told him the dream I had. He goes, there's something on that,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing about it. That's one of the things I felt like was important for us to talk about is you had a confirmation that this family, something to do with this family was important. Mm-hmm. You had the dream. You had an outside event that confirmed that there's something going on here. There's some, because they were trying to get you to help with something in the dream, and then you get this message, I'm trying to reach you, trying to contact you, which, who knows? It could have been somebody who spoofed the account. It could have been somebody who... But see, here's the thing. I think people discount that stuff. Oh, their account got hacked.
Yeah.
yeah, right at that moment, within 3 days of the dream.
Yeah.
So it was hacked.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean Holy Spirit didn't have something to do with knowing when it was going to be hacked and knowing when to give you the dream to allow those two things to become a confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So the cool thing to me about this, and we still don't know what the dream meant.
Mm-hmm.
We know it's important.
Yeah.
We know we need to keep pursuing understanding it.
Right.
But we don't yet know what it meant.
Well, in the dream, there was kind of like a little something that would maybe solve an issue that I had brought up. So I think I'll just deliver that to the family maybe, because there could be things that I don't even know about, that would be helpful to the family. And that's really all we have to do, isn't it? I mean, it's really not our job to go, oh, well, I need to find out what's going on so that I can solve a mystery or a dilemma, because something was lost, in the dream. And I was like, that's really not our place. I mean, because kind of sometimes that means somehow we might try to get credit for it, or, it's nothing like that for me. It may not mean anything to them at all, but the fact that it was, and I know some people might go, oh, do you believe in people talking to you from the other side? And it wasn't that. For me, it was like, okay, here's the dream, which I believe was given by God. Then the confirmation that I needed to go back and reflect a little bit more on it and possibly follow through with some of the things. Do I actually believe that person was trying to reach out to me from the other side? Not necessarily. I just felt like it was confirmation from God, just at least follow through with the process. Normally, what I did at first was just prayed. Yeah. Prayed that everything was fine.
Well,
and
that's the appropriate
with the family.
response. Mm-hmm. When you don't know what to do, that's an appropriate response. You pray and you ask God to intervene and that nature. We don't always get to know what a dream means. Right. As much as we do dream interpretation, as much as we work on our own dreams, we don't always have the answer. And I think it's good for people to know that that's true of a person who's just starting to learn about dreams. It's true of people who've been working with dreams for what have we been doing, 30 years now or something, 25 years? We don't always know, and that's okay. So prayer is the appropriate response. And now you can take some steps, you can reach out, you can do some simple things to see if that door opens. We've talked plenty of times on this podcast about when saints who've passed away do show up in a dream and it's really them and there's a message or there's direction or something like that. But this is not what that was. This was metaphorical. This was something relating to their family, something relating to something the family needed or had lost, or something relating to their lineage or the spiritual we don't really know, but it wasn't like them showing up. It was much more, there's a message here. And we have to trust God that the timing for understanding what's going on is His, not ours. Yeah. We don't get it when we want it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I was thinking about a time, that your grandmother showed up in the dream. We've talked about this many times. You were kind of asleep or awake. You were kind of in a different,
that twilight kind of.
Yeah. And, she gave you a message, and, you at first didn't know what that meant. And I remember you would say to me, oh, my goodness, you dream about my grandmother all the time. That's my grandmother. Why don't I get a dream about her? Well, you got, this encounter kind of thing that happened for you where she came to you in a dream. And we've had other relatives where some of their grandparents have shown up in dreams, and I don't think we should ignore those things.
But see, it was almost 2 years, even though that was a very direct, almost like a message more than a metaphorical dream, something she spoke very clearly, but it was just mystery.
Yes, and it was something at the time there really wasn't even a huge dilemma. There was a small dilemma,
a little dilemma,
but it was not huge, and it wasn't until later that it was like, oh, wow.
Well, it was almost 2 years before we had a full understanding of what that dream / vision / encounter, what it meant. And that was okay. We could look back 2 years previously and see, wow, God knew exactly what we were dealing with. He knew exactly what was going on. Right. And so part of it is when you don't have an understanding of what a dream means or what it's about or that sort of thing, part of that is about okay, there can come a point in time when you get the opportunity to realize, wait a minute, God knew before I went through this what was going to happen. And even though I didn't understand the dream, here now on the backside, he's telling me, I knew you were going to be okay. Everything's good.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of grace in that.
And you know, at first, even though you knew, you were kind of like, wow, you felt like it was powerful in the moment, but you had no idea that how powerful it would be later, and like how much it encouraged you. So I encourage you that when you have those encounters, if you have that encounter with a loved one who has passed, not to just cast it aside as if, you know, I was taught, you know, when I was younger that, you know, you have to be careful with necromancy and talking to the dead and that sort of thing. And I agree with that 100%. You do have to watch that. That is not a road you want to go down. And I wouldn't, you know. But there is a difference when now I'm not going to say there aren't times where something dark could approach you and be, something deceptive, you know. You have to be careful and watchful of that. I think something that would be wise would be sharing it with other people who understand. Yes, and dreams. Those who are solid and, you know, you don't want to just say, oh, whatever. And we don't do that, you know. Right. I don't just sit around and talk to my dead relatives.
No, but I think what you're talking about here is there are times when a person is just a metaphor. There are times when they're bringing a message. We don't, if we're freaked out by it, if necromancy and the dark mystical side of communing or conversing with the dead, the Christian prohibitions to that are all directed towards the individual pursuing it. And in the cases we're talking about, if it came from the enemy, you didn't ask for it, so you can deal with it. So it's not you doing something weird or crazy. B, if it comes in a dream, vision, encounter that came from God, you didn't ask for it, God sent it. There's clearly times when that's even scriptural. I mean, so the amount of transfiguration, Jesus talks to Moses and to Elijah. And while some people will say, well, Moses, you know, Elijah went up in the whirlwind, he wasn't necessarily dead. Moses, there's a passage in Jude where the devil and Michael the archangel contend over Moses' body. He's dead, so he's dead.
There's some bones there.
You've got the example in the Old Testament with Samuel coming and speaking to King Saul, the Witch of Endor scenario. That's not necessarily a positive example, but it's there.
Right.
But there are examples there. So the key is we're not pursuing it. So in your dream, the thing we don't want people to freak out about is there was nothing encounter. There was not a real experience with a deceased person. If that did happen, we have basis for it. We've talked about it before, as long as we're not pursuing it.
Right.
But frequently, we're going to have these metaphorical dream situations with somebody who's deceased, and the real example here is just not knowing what to do with it. It's not important. It could have been somebody who was alive that was in the dream, and we still wouldn't have known what to do with it.
Right.
It's okay.
Yep.
We can wait. We can take our time. Right. I have people all the time who share dreams with me, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50-year-old people, old. I think I had somebody who was like 70 share a dream that they had when they were 6 or 7 years old. Had no idea. What is that? 50 plus years, 60 plus years.
Yeah.
Had no idea what the dream meant. And we interpreted the dream, and they were like, that's what it was, or that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, that's a long time to wait for an interpretation.
It is.
but it still had life and value.
Well, honestly, I was, having this dream, I was thinking, okay, why did I have that dream? I mean, I can't interact with them anymore. There's not much I can do. I don't know the family that well. Okay, so I just prayed about it, and then 3 days later, the little thing came across my phone. I want to say it came twice because there was something just very like, okay, I couldn't let it go.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I'm going to act on this or whatever. So, it's one of those things where it could have been 20 years down the road that something would have confirmed why I did what I did. Or I would have never known, just prayed for the family or whatever and never known anything. You just don't know. So all I'm saying is just being open, paying attention to that language and that conversation that you're having with God.
And you handle the things you can handle. You look at the dream to evaluate, what can I glean from this? What can I get from this? Mm-hmm. You mentioned something earlier, intrinsic versus extrinsic dreams. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about it before, but briefly, when you're the center of attention in a dream, when you're at the heart of the dream, everything in the dream's about you, that's going to be an intrinsic dream. The dream's going to be about you. Mm-hmm. When you're outside looking in, like you're the fly on the wall looking down from the corner of the ceiling, and you have no part in the dream whatsoever, that's going to be what we call an extrinsic dream. It's probably going to be about someone or something else. Mm-hmm. But we have that challenging spot, and that's where this dream was, which left us still struggling with even who's the dream about. Not just what's the interpretation, but who's the dream about, because that's when you're a participant in the dream. You're not the center of attention. Right. You're not completely outside, but you're involved along or equally with other people. Yeah. And those can be intrinsic or extrinsic dreams.
And honestly, I asked you to help me interpret that dream that morning, and you kind of gave me a little hint of what it could mean. You didn't say it definitely means this, And so I was like, okay, and it was just kind of general, you know, and then, but it wasn't until that I got the text message, or a few days later, that I was like, okay, I think it may have been just a little bit more to it than it just being general, and you don't know that until you have experiences sometimes. Yeah, exactly. So
and so we don't really know who the dream's about, for sure. We don't really know what the dream means, but we do know it's important because there's a confirmation that comes through. We know that we still don't have an answer, and circumstances have led to other things happening and not being able to just diligently, seek out an answer. Right. And I think that's another important point on this type of dream when we don't really know what the dream means, is don't let it consume you.
Yeah.
It's okay to put it on the table and say, God, if that's important, you give me understanding of what it is.
Absolutely.
And in this case, he told you it was important, and now we just say, okay, God, it's important. I don't know what it means. You bring the affirmation. You bring something to help me, or just get me through it, and let me, even if I don't see it for some time later.
Right.
Job 33 talks about, at night when men slumber on their beds and deep sleep falls, and God seals our instructions. He may not, sometimes we use that passage to talk about we can't remember our dream. And so the Lord sealed the dream up, and we just, the next verse goes on to say it's done basically to keep us from pride. So we don't get prideful that we had the answer, so to speak. So we use that verse a lot of times to talk about how a dream, we can't remember a dream, but it was God who closed the dream down, not that we just couldn't remember it.
Right.
But that verse also applies to the situation you're dealing with here, which is you remember the dream, but the interpretation's sealed.
Yeah.
We don't know what that You may walk out what the interpretation is before you ever realize what the interpretation is.
True.
You've walked it out. You've done it. You've completed it. You've fulfilled whatever God wanted you to know or do in that situation. And you took no pride in it because you didn't know what you were doing, Right. I don't know,
Right.
But suddenly afterwards, you're like, that's what the dream was about. Now you don't take pride in the fulfillment. You're just like, God, you're awesome. You knew exactly what, and that's the way dreams are supposed to be, bringing glory to God, not causing us to be, look at me, I'm super cool because I know what the dream means.
Right, exactly.
So it's some cool things we see in these kind of dreams.
It is, and I think it's okay for us to end on this and not even really have to talk about it a whole much further, because honestly, it could be that I had the dreams just to be able to share this, because
Yeah.
some people may be like on a cliffhanger going, oh, I wonder what the dream was about, or, that really doesn't matter. It's just learning how to listen to God, act on it, and I'm going to act
trust
on it.
Him.
Yeah, I'm going to call the family and say, I had a dream about this. This is something I saw. I don't know if you want to hear it or not, and it's fine. If they want to, I'll share. If they don't, I'm going to move on. It doesn't affect me.
And it may or may not have any impact on them at all. And it's okay.
And I'm just following through and being obedient.
I think the key takeaway from this podcast episode is it's okay not to know.
Yeah, true.
It really is.
Yeah.
And don't look at other people who talk about dreams all the time, like us in this podcast, and say, well, they always know. Nope,
we don't. I had a dream this morning, and I was like, Michael, help me with it. We were trying to.
I don't know about that.
It was a long dream. It
was a long dream.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, listen, I think we're going to wrap up a little bit early.
Yeah.
Not too much, but
your
I'm
back
still
is
struggling
still
just
healing.
a little bit with sitting in a hard
I
chair like this. And so and I know probably people are watching thinking, boy, he's sitting really weird there. So his arms aren't moving and stuff. And I'm trying to get comfortable, and I just can't do it.
That's why I said, it'll be okay for us to end on this.
So it's been good. It's been good to get back. Been good to get back on video because, we spent the last podcast we didn't get to do on video. It was just audio only. So had a few people say, hey, please don't leave YouTube. So and you look beautiful.
Well, we went
wedding,
out today. We went to a wedding. I have makeup.
You have
and
new
hair done.
hairdo. It's beautiful. You look awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll end on that note. My wife looks awesome.
Okay. As always, keep dreaming.